welcome. Happy Sunday. Go ahead and drop in the chat where you're watching from. Thank you so much for joining me. It is a lovely sunny spring day here, so thanks for hanging out with me instead of playing outside. That is so fun. Okay, so today we are gonna work on turning a picture into a layered card design. Now, I'm gonna say that I have done a little practicing with this to make sure that I can actually show you how we're gonna do this. And what I envisioned how this is gonna go, it's actually gonna be a little bit different because not everything worked out perfectly, which is totally normal. But before we get started, I just want to answer a question that I got recently, and that question is, how can you support me and support the things I do here with Crafty Christy's Creations? And there's a couple of ways that you can do that. So let's start with the free ways that you can support me, because these are things we can all do. And the way you do that is by hitting the like on my videos, subscribing, watching my videos. All of those things are free things that you can do that help my channel grow and get out to other silhouette crafters. So that's the easiest first thing you can do. The next way that you can support me is by joining my email list. And one of the cool free ways that I have for you to do that is by grabbing my Silhouette keyboard shortcuts. These you're going to hear me using in our video today. These are just shortcuts. This is a free download that you can grab, and what these shortcuts do is just to help you keep your hands on the keys instead of clicking around in Silhouette Studio all over the place. So this awesome freebie here is a great way for you to get something for you, and then also to get on my email list so you find out the latest and greatest and don't miss anything that we're doing. So those are some free ways that you can support me. Now let's talk about some ways that you can spend a little money to help support me. And there's lots of ways that you can do that. One of the easiest ways is to buy some of my cut files. And I will leave a link in the chat to my Etsy shop. That's where you're going to find most of my files. My website, you'll sometimes see in these videos, I'll leave links to the cards on my website. That I've been waiting because I'm trying to build it out with all the variety that's in my Etsy shop. So I don't have it quite up and running, but my Etsy shop is where you'll find every single card design that I have. And then the other way that you can support me with, a monetary way is by grabbing some of the courses or cheat sheets that I have, which you can find over at craftychristyscreations.com/learn. And the last way is right here inside of these live streams with a super chat or a super sticker. You should find somewhere, I think it's in around the chat area, you'll see a little rectangle with a $sign in it, and that will show you how to do that. So those are all the different ways that you can support me to help keep bringing you awesome content about how to master your silhouette. Okay, enough of that kind of stuff. Let's get into why you're here. And that is turning this card design from a photo. Okay, so let me put in the chat, hang on. I want to give you the link so that you can grab this image that we're using. So let me just put that in the chat as well. So in case you're interested in doing this with me, you absolutely can. Okay, so we've got that in the chat. So that is the image that we used in last week's video. I showed you how I created that image in ChatGPT. And today we are going to take that image and turn it into a card. So let's jump into Silhouette. Okay, I've already got the image here. And again, that link is in the chat if you want to make the same card with me. And I am going to tell you that you need Designer's Edition of Silhouette Studio or higher to do all this awesome tracing that we're going to do. But what we're going to do, I like to work kind of off my screen a little bit. So I'm going to pull everything over here so we have a little more room to work. I zoomed in this image. I made it a little bit bigger. It doesn't really matter at the moment what size you use, but we're going to come over to our trace panel and we're going to go to this trace by color. And what I'm going to grab from this image is we're going to grab the frog, and then we're going to grab one, maybe two of these mushrooms, probably just one, because this is going to take a little bit of time. So I'm going to do the trace by color, and then the first thing I'm going to click on here is the black that outlines this frog. And we're going to do, I want to do a solid fill, and I just wanted to do the single area, meaning it's only going to do this piece of the frog, and then we're going to just turn up that tolerance. Oh, and I didn't grab the right thing, so let's go trace by color. See if I can't. There, grab that, and now we're going to turn up the tolerance. And you see how that gives me the outline of the frog, but as I keep turning up that tolerance, it outlines everything else. But we really just want that frog. So we can leave it like that. But actually what I'm going to do is I found this frog is a little bit difficult to really get all of the layers that we want. So we're going to do a trace and detach. And sometimes that takes a minute, but then you can see when you do that, that gave me my entire frog and it's all of its cute pieces. And that's great. That's perfect. That's what I want. We're going to do that part as a print and cut. Oh, and I realize that I'm a little bit off the screen here. Let me pull things over here so you can see. And then the next thing that we're going to do is I want this mushroom, and you can see we've got shadows here. We've got this darker red. We've got a lighter red. We've got this beige under here. All sorts of colorations with this because they've really got this lined up even on the frog with the light. But we're going to try our best. We're going to do this trace by color. And I'm first going to start by just grabbing this outline. And again, I'm going to do the single area and I'm just going to turn that tolerance up. And I am having a heck of a time grabbing the right piece. So maybe we just need to zoom in a little bit to make sure that we can see what we're grabbing. So let me grab, I want this outline. And now let's see. Did you see how I just moved that eyedropper to a different spot? And it is going to give me some extra parts, which is fine. But I like that. And then I'm going to hit trace. And you're like, no, where did it go? So it's hard to tell, but there's some red lines around everything here. So I'm just going to click on those red lines and I'm going to pull those over here to where I want them. And we're going to do a lot of work with this to make it what we want. But I think what I want to do next is just go ahead and trace the rest of what we want. So again, trace by color. This time I'm going to grab the red. And again, we're just doing that single area. And that looks great. I got all of the red. And then I'm going to hit trace. And we can grab that. And then you'll see how that fits perfectly in there, just like that. I'm just gonna bring this over to the side. And then that's, I think, we need some more of our stock here, which we can also create our own stock. But let's just see what happens if we just trace this solid fill, again, single area, and it's gonna trace it right to the curve of that frog, which is totally fine. We're gonna hit trace. And then this gives me kind of a general thickness for the inside here. Okay. So we have all of the pieces that we want. I'm gonna just move that picture to the side. Again, if you need that picture, there's a link in the chat for you to grab this if you wanna follow along. We've got our frog that we're gonna do as a print and cut, and now we're gonna build out some layers for our mushroom. And we've got a couple different parts here. This is the red. So what I like to do is just to kind of help me understand what things are, we'll go ahead and fill this in with red. And then, so if I take this piece right now, I just kind of want to show you what we're working with. If I fill this in with like this brownish beige color, you see how it filled in that outline? So that was doing our black outline instead of our inner tan pieces. So I just want you to kind of understand where that's at. But what I'm going to do next is I'm going to right click and I'm going to release my compound path on this piece here. And I don't have to clean anything up yet. We're just going to leave that alone. And I'm going to grab this intersection here. This is a solid piece. And I'm going to make this piece white. And this is the perfect match to this red piece here. And that is going to layer right behind it. So now we have this red section with cutouts that's going to layer on top of the white section to give us 2 layers of our mushroom. And then we need the inside of our mushroom. We like all of these areas here. So this does seem a little bit tedious, but what I'm going to do is hold down the shift key. And I'm going to grab each of these little inward sections. And because I colored them in, they're a little bit easier to grab. You don't have to be right on the line. You can just grab the sections. And we'll just go through and grab all of these. And then I'm just going to make sure, yep, I got them all. And then I'm going to group those together. Now that makes up the underside of our mushroom. And then we have our stalk, which is going to be this part here that's going to fit in here as well. And you'll see there's a little bit of gap around, and that's okay. We're going to leave that alone. But now we're going to do some point editing. So let me just scroll this over here. So we're going to work on this part here, and we're going to turn this into some point editing. So I double tap, and you get all these little points. And the cool part is I'm just going to real quick hit simplify. And then I'm going to grab this one right here, and I'm just going to pull that stalk down because I want this to be a pretty tall mushroom. And then I'm going to bring this side right here, and I'm going to bring that down to about the same. And then the neat part is I can just click on this point, and I'm going to hit the delete key on the keyboard, and I'm going to just delete these points. And then I have my shape here. If you want to adjust the shape, you can grab these little arms. They call them, oh my goodness, words. Anchor points. And then these are like the hinges on there, and that will adjust the direction. So you see how you can pull and you can do all sorts of weird stuff with them. And then the longer you make it or the shorter, it changes how things work. So I'm just going to leave it like that, but I do want to kind of pull this one in a little bit. I don't want it maybe so wide. Oops. And then I'm going to adjust this one as well. The fun part is trying to grab the little purpley blue handles instead of your actual image. And then here I'm just going to make that flat and simplify again. Simplifying really just tries to help kind of smooth things out a little bit and give you less points where you can change things. Okay, and then this is going to be that same color. But when you look at this, you're like, well, there's still this gap that's around here and around everything else. So how do I fill in that gap? Here's what we're going to do. Bring this image back in. And now what I'm going to try to do is grab this inner black area. So I'm going to select my image. We're going to come back to image trace, back to the trace by color. And then I'm going to try to grab just this inward black one here. And then I'm going to turn that tolerance up. So it looks like it's going to give me the entire outline again, which is fine. We're going to hit trace. And then we're going to see what we can do with this. Some of this is just kind of a bit of guessing. I'm not going to lie. And then what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to release that compound path. So right click, release. And this time I'm going to grab this large outline. That doesn't, let's see, Control Z. It's your keyboard shortcut. Okay, so that large line is going to give us the outline. So if I take this large outline piece, grab that one, and I'm just going to make that black. Oh, and it did all of it. Interesting. But if I do this one, it's not grouped. It's not a compound path. Interesting. But I think because these sections here is a negative space and it doesn't really have a color, so it's not going to let me do that. So how do we fix that? Well, what we're going to have to do is some finagling here. So what I'm going to do is the easiest way I find to kind of delete certain sections is to come in with a large rectangle, select that, and then select the piece behind it. And then we're going to go over to our modify panel, and then we're going to hit subtract. And that got rid of all of that area under there. So now this is the only part that I'm working with, which makes it a lot easier. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to come back to that point editing, and then I'm going to delete all of these to try to get this mushroom shape complete, because this is going to do the underneath of our mushroom and the outside edge. So we're gonna like that. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to keep hitting the delete key to delete all of those inward sections. And just let me zoom in here so you get a better idea of what we're doing. So I'm just clicking on these sections, and then now as I'm getting closer, I'm just being a little bit more mindful because I want to leave these two there, and I'm just going to delete some of these other spots and try not to goof that up. And you see right here, there's a little bit of a step that's happening. So we're going to look at this, and I'm just going to try to smooth that out a little bit. That helped. And this one, I'm going to do a little bit of a darker color just so you can tell there's a difference in colors. And then this layer should fit perfectly with the rest of those. And then up here, I'm going to send that to the back. And then once it's on the back, then you can see how it's like, well, it doesn't really fit all that great. You got to kind of get it in the right area. And you see how it still is like not a perfect fit, which is totally fine. We can fix that. I think that's probably where it's meant to sit. And honestly, I think that's okay. We've got a little bit on the edge here. So what I can do with this is now we can grab our red. So I'm going to group my red and my white and group those together. So I just right clicked and group. So now what I'm going to do, let's see, if I do point editing, it won't let me because it's grouped. All right, undo. So I'm going to ungroup those. This is where things are going to get a little goofy, because if I make some adjustments to the red, then I have to go back and we can just make a new white copy. But what I'm doing is I'm just going to try to align that red over these areas, this gap that's right here. Does that make sense? So again, doing that point editing, and I'm just going to click that point and I'm going to try to pull that point out to match the edge here. And then this one here, there's a little bit of gap right there. So I'm going to try to grab that handle and pull that handle out to cover that area. And that looks pretty good. I'm not going to worry about the white. We will fix the white here, and we're basically just going to recreate the white like we did before. So I'm going to grab this one and I'm just going to pull that out to the edge. I can pull this handle down. And I'm just trying to get it to line up. Now, the thing is, you're not probably going to get a perfect alignment on here, just because the way, you know, we're just kind of eyeballing this, but that's okay. And then if I want this to kind of wrap like that, I think that looks good. So it's wrapping more on this side than it is on this side, but I'm okay with that. So we're going to get rid of the white, delete. And now we're going to take this red, we'll zoom back out here, and we're going to make a copy. So Control C to copy, Control F to paste in place. See how I have two copies now? Control Z to undo that move. And then this top copy, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it white, just so we can see the difference. And then, not point editing. I'm going to right click, release the compound path on the white. And then we're going to come over to our modify panel and weld that all together. There's our new white piece, the same shape as our red. And then I'm just going to send that backward. I tell you, sometimes it doesn't always like to send back. Bring forward, there we go. So I had to send it all the way to the very back and then bring it forward a step to get it in the right place. Okay, so now when we look at what we have here, we have our really, really tall mushroom, and then we have our frog. And then we've got some little small mushrooms right here that we could do just as beige, and see how these ones don't maybe all have the little spots on them. So we can certainly keep these and then just make the tops red. We'll just grab these ones, we'll make the tops red, and then we can make the bottom halves of them. I'm going to hit shift to grab both at the same time, and then we can make them the same beige as what we're doing. Oh, and it didn't grab them, did it? Let's zoom in. There's some noise around these from the trace, so I think I must have grabbed something else. Okay, so, and then you can just kind of put those together. I'm gonna move these over here. See how there's noise that's coming with it? All these little specks. We can just delete all that. We don't really need that. And then let's get these guys set up for layering as well. And these ones are gonna be really easy. So right now they're a little bit overlapping, but what I'm going to do is hold down Alt or Option key on a Mac. I'm going to click and drag down a copy. And then I'm going to take both of these. I'm going to weld that together. And this one as well. I'm going to weld that together. And then we're going to make these that kind of beigey color. And then all we need from this is the top. We're going to send this one to the back, send this one to the back. And then now we have our layered top that goes on them. So now we have a couple mushrooms. So now what I like to do is just grab the things that I'm going to work with. This we can get rid of, and I'm actually going to pull, we can get rid of these stems. I'm just going to clean up some things. We don't need this. And I'm going to grab all of these things, Control plus C to copy. And we're going to open a new page. We're going to come up to File, New Project Wizard, and we're going to do Card and hit Start. So this is a 5x7 card. This line right here is your score line. It's got it as a dash line. I don't like doing the dashed lines. So first thing, actually, I better just paste those parts here before I forget. We're just going to paste those off to the side. And then we can fix this. We're going to ungroup our card design. So now you see it's got the box, which is the card base, and then this dash line. I personally don't like dashed lines for my card, so I can come up here to our kind of line style, and I can make that a solid line. And then I always make my score lines either a blue or white depending on what I'm doing. So I'm going to make this one blue. And then that way I know that that is my card. And then for this card, I think I'm going to turn this entire card I think we're going to do it on like a, oh, what the heck do they call that? We're going to do it kind of a brownish card. And I'm just going to make sure I didn't move anything. So I'm just going to center these together. And then we're going to group that back together. So this half right here is going to be the front of my card. And then we're just going to lay things out here on our card. I'm just going to take this whole guy right now and I'm going to group it together. And then now we get to decide how we want to lay out our card. And all of these little mushrooms I'm going to group together as well. Just grouping my little mushrooms together, and then we'll pull it all right on here to our screen. We can zoom in a little bit. And now we get to decide how we want to do this. I'm going to bring him to the front. And while it's not going to look completely like what we had created, which, you know, that original image that we used, which is totally fine, because now we're creating our own version of this card. And then you want some grass on there to make it look a little bit more realistic. So what I'm going to do is create a rectangle, and you get to decide how thick you want it. I think that's good. I'm going to turn that rectangle green. Use a bit of a different, I mean, these colors are, you know, just kind of to show us what we're building here. This is going to line up at the bottom of our card, and then we're going to have to add something to this to make it look like grass. We want just like how in this image there's some little bits of grass sticking up. We're going to create those. So to do that, I like to grab the ellipse tool, and over here on the side I'm going to draw kind of a long thin oval. I'll give that the same color. I like to get rid of those line colors And let's do that for this box too. We'll get rid of that line color. And then I'm going to click and drag. So Alt or Option on a Mac, click and drag. And then we can use this use the handle here and just kind of rotate that a little bit. Can bring in another one. I'm just doing that Alt or Option key, clicking and dragging. Need to shorten this one so it doesn't stick out the bottom. And then we'll do one more, click and drag. This one I'm going to rotate the other direction. And then you get to decide like how much of it you want showing. Do you want it to be kind of short? You want some tall pieces? How close together? This is all the kind of artistic part that you now get to decide. I think I like the way that looks. And then now I'm going to select all three of these pieces. There, okay. And let's see if I do it like that. Okay, and then we're going to shrink that up a little bit more. I'm just going to weld those pieces together. So now I have this, okay? That's what we just created. And now I get to decide where on here I want those. So I'm just doing Alt or Option, clicking and dragging. You can rotate. You can transform them. So you can come up to Object. You can replicate. We want to... I'm going to flip this horizontally. So that's the same thing as coming over here to your mirror right here. That's the same thing I just did. So lots of ways to do the same thing. And then, you can just kind of decide, maybe you want to put more of these right close together. You want to spread them out. But we're going to put all of these just kind of at the top of our rectangle here. And then this one I'm going to mirror. This one I'm going to do just kind of straight up and down. Okay, I like the way that looks. Oop, we can just scrunch up the bottoms here so nothing is peeking through. And then when you're happy with the way that that green piece looks, let's hold down the Shift key, and we're going to select all of those green pieces. And then we're going to select our green rectangle, and then we're going to weld all of those together. So now we have this piece here that is going to go at the bottom of our card, and that's going to be our grass. So we're just building some dimension on this card. So now I have this grass, and then we've got our little mushrooms, which we're just going to take our grass and we're just going to send that back. So you have send backward, and then you have send to the back. We're just going to send backward, meaning just now that should go back a little bit, and then we're just going to have to bring our mushroom to the front. Still didn't work. I do find that some of these buttons don't always work. You have to just kind of work with them and choose the right one. And now you can decide how big you want your mushrooms, where do you want your mushrooms. They can be kind of here in front of the grass. Let's see if I can grab that one. There we go. We're going to bring that to the front. They can be just sitting here on top of the grass. You can make them smaller and put them here on the grass. I'm just using that Alt or Option key, and I'm just clicking and dragging them around. Okay, I like the way that looks. Lucy says, hi, I've watched a few of your videos recently, and it's pretty cool to catch you live. Awesome, so glad you made it. And then Nani, did I say that right? She says, hello. And she says that you're really good at this. Well, guess what? You can be just as good at this as I am. Just follow along with what we're doing. And it takes a lot of practice, but you'll get there. But I'm showing you how I create these things, and this is how you do it. So we've got our little mushrooms kind of where we want them, and then you've got this big mushroom. And then you can decide, where do you want your big mushroom? And I kind of like it sitting right there behind. And then you've got your frog, which you can decide, do you want to bring your frog to the front? Do you want him sitting kind of on top of everything? In which case, a lot of the grass that you just put in there is gone, but that's okay. Or we could decide later, after we cut everything out, do you want to tuck them kind of in? Do you want to tuck them around? We can decide what that's going to look like. But I like that big mushroom being up there. We've got a couple of smaller mushrooms here. And then I think I'm going to take this one. I'm going to do Alt Option, click and drag. And then this one, I'm going to mirror. So let's delete this one. I mirrored it. And then I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so it looks a little bit different. And then I'm just going to kind of stretch it out a little bit. And he's got to stay in the card, but we can make him a little bit wider, but shorter to make him look a little bit different. See how that totally changes the angles of everything? And then we can send him backwards. So now he's kind of behind our frog, gives it a little more interest, maybe a little bit taller like that. And then you can just kind of poke him in right there. Okay, that's it. That's all we're going to do to create this. So we can get rid of these little pieces. Our card is created. The other thing I like to do, because we're going to make a complete card here. So this is a 5x7 card. We're going to cut it out of a kind of a beigey color. And then I like to make an inside layer for you to write your message on. And if this card is 5x7, so this is the 5 sides. So I want this to be, we've got our ratio aspect unlocked. I'm going to make this 4.5 by 6.5. So we were pretty close. And then that way you're going to have a nice edge around there. If you want less of an edge, we could go 7.5 and 6.75 and then hit enter, and that takes up a little bit less space. I like that. Okay, so now the moment of truth is looking at all of our layers, and we're just going to get things cut out. So now we're going to zoom back to normal here, and we're just going to kind of pull everything off of here. I'm just going to rubber band select everything and then make sure that my outlines are none. That's just a personal preference for going to cut everything out. Oh, did that goof? Control Z. Control Z. That did something to my card base. When I did that, oh, it got rid of my score line. Well, shucks. That's all right. We can create another score line. No big deal. So I'm going to turn that back. We'll do this kind of a color. Can you see what I'm doing? Let me pull this over. I don't know where that score line went. I wonder if it accidentally got welded into something, but we can create one with our line segment tool. We're going to pull that here, and I'm going to hold down the shift key to get a nice straight line, and then I'm going to click and drag down. We have a nice solid line, and then again, I just like to make that white or blue. Let's make it blue. Nothing else is blue on here. All right, and then we're just going to make sure that that is centered. So you can just hit the center button. That centers both of these pieces, left and right and up and down. And then I'm going to right click and group or hit Control+G. Okay, card base done. We've got our inside piece here, and then we've got our, so what you can do as you're cutting things out, depending on how you want to layer all of this, sometimes I like to have a little bit more creative control, and I think that's how we're going to do it today. So we're going to kind of unmake these things a little bit here. And I'm just going to pull all of these off of here. Some of these might be too small that we might not actually get to cut them, and we might just try to cheat a little bit and color them or something. We'll pull that out, and then these need to be ungrouped. So I'm just right-clicking and ungrouping, and then I'm going to pull the white layers out. And of course, because they're white, you can't see them. So I'm going to just give them a little bit of a blue color just so you can see what we're doing here. And then same with this one. I'm going to just do these a little bit of blue. And then we're going to start cutting some things out. And we're going to do this frog as a print and cut. So let's get set up here. I am using my Cameo 5, and I'm going to be using my electrostatic mat. So let's start by addressing what we're using here. I'm using the electrostatic mat. My media size is letter, because that's what size paper I have. All of that looks good. And then we can come back here. I can adjust my inset to be all the way small to make sure that everything works on there. And then the fun part is I'm doing all this on white cardstock, so I can throw anything that's going to be white. I can get all of it cut out here with my frog. And you're like, but Christy, we just colored this. Yeah, I know. We will have to color them a little bit different. Let's see if everything's going to fit. Okay, that piece might not fit. Let's see here. Sometimes you just do a little finagling to get everything to fit where you want it, but the key is to not resize anything. Okay, those fit, and then now this fits. Oh, and okay, let's maybe put him up here. I don't think it's gonna fit. Are you gonna fit down here, little guy? Oh, you are. Perfect. Because you want to stay out of the hashed areas. So that all looks good, and that's ready for print and cut. So for this, I am going to select these pieces, and I'm going to turn them back to white. And then I will just give them a red outline so we can see them. Excuse me. But we don't have to worry too much because those don't have a point value, so they won't print. And then let's just make sure, I'm going to give this guy a red outline as well, just to make sure that we have a place to cut. And then before we go to print it, let me move that guy. Let's look at our sun panel and I like to make sure that, yep, see, it's going to cut on those red lines. This one probably needs to scoot up a little bit. Everything looks great. Okay, we're good. So let's go ahead and print. You'll notice nothing is showing there. I'm going to zoom. Oh, somehow my page is goofed up. 8.5 by 11. I want show my print border. Somehow this got goofed. I want you to show me, whoops, nope, nope, nope. Interesting, my print border is way up there. Why not print the tiny mushrooms, Lucy asks. You know what? We absolutely can. That's a great plan. let's print these two. Let's print these little guys, and then we can try to cut them out. That's a great idea. And they will fit in the tiny little spots. Check your page setup settings. Yes, okay. On the electrostatic mat, my media size is letter. Constrain media to the cutting mat, which is fine. I don't have to do that. We don't want it to rotate. I tell you, I've had so much trouble with my printer lately that I'm wondering if that is my issue. Like your printer settings, yep. Let's look at this. So my print preview has it printing the other way. So let me go into my printer. Devices, printers, and printer properties. Maintenance. Okay. Start printing immediately. Print spool, key printer, printing defaults. Okay, I like to do standard. I don't think that's anything problem. We're doing plain, standard from the front, printer, and it should be showing it that way. Well, isn't that interesting? All of those look right, and we're just going to hit OK. We're going to hit OK. All right, dimensions. That's for that. I've got my inset, default. What if we invert? That doesn't help me. Click Print Page Settings on File tab in Silhouette Studio. Okay. Print page setup. Front tray. Portrait. There we go. Oh, Lucy, you did it. Thank you. Okay. Well, that still has my print. That didn't do anything. Okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to save this. I'm going to save it to my library, which is risky. I don't recommend. We're going to save it as frog image. And then I'm going to restart Silhouette Studio. I'm going to hit quit. Do you want to save changes? Yes. Okay. So I just saved it to my hard drive. I saved it to Silhouette Studio, and then I also saved it to my hard drive. So hopefully just a little rebooting will do the trick. I'm not going to recover. I'm just going to come and open from where I saved it in my hard drive. Oh, and it saved the wrong page, Christy. Okay, what did I save over here? There we go. That saved, correct? Oh, but it did not fix. You know, I had this issue with my last printer that my print and cut area was really small. So I had to take that bottom inset and really bring it in. And I mean, this is just what we're going to have to do. And I will have to mess with the rest of that later. So I'm going to take that piece off for now. This is a waste, but that's okay. We'll get it done. And then I'm going to put that there. And then let's double check on the sun panel since we added those little guys. Yes, it is gonna cut out everybody. Perfect. I like to double check. Now let's go to print. Everybody's within our print area. This is so goofy, but it's all right. So let me load up my printer. I'm using all Recollections cardstock today. And I don't think you can see my printer back here, but I'm just printing this on Recollections cardstock. Get that loaded in, and then I can come back here. I'm just gonna hit print. We're gonna print to my printer. Fingers crossed that everything's worked. I tell you what, I have had so much trouble with my printer lately. I had, and now it's still saying that my printer is, okay, good, it's online. Whew. I kid you not, I spent probably a good 4 or 5 hours. So I switched from Xfinity to T-Mobile Internet, and then I stupidly changed the name of my internet. Do not recommend. They even told me not to do that, but I did it anyways. And when I did that, it completely goofed everything. And then I had to reset my printer and do all that, and it was a rather bit of a nightmare. Okay, so this looks real funny, doesn't it? This corner here goes in the top corner, and then this is just wild. Okay, we're gonna see how this works. So let's do this. We're gonna go ahead and just get this cut out. So it definitely took my sheet of paper and turned it the wrong way. Lucy, do you got any more brilliant ideas on how to fix that? Well, let me turn this on. This is gonna be another one I'm gonna end up spending a lot of time. Messing with this stuff the other day, so it's fresh in my memory. Which version of Silhouette Studio are you using? So to know what that is, you come, let me get back over here. You come over to Help, and then you go to the About Silhouette Studio. I'm in 4.5.815, and then this SSBE means Silhouette Studio Business Edition. So the newer versions I've had way more trouble. This is the first time I've had a print and cut problem in this version, but we'll see how this goes. Okay, I've got this loaded on here. Again, you've got the square in the top left corner, which is where it's supposed to go, irregardless of how this looks. This right here matches what's on my screen, and it's nice and stuck down. We'll go ahead and load it in. Let me come back to Silhouette Studio, and then we'll come over to our sun panel. And then I like we're gonna use the simple panel because it's gonna cut out everything. And I like to do the 80-pound cardstock. We're cutting with the auto blade, and then I just, for me, have to turn that that blade depth up to 4 to get a nice pretty cut. Everything else looks good, and then I'm gonna hit syncing. We gotta wait. Sorry, my camera's right where all that goes. Okay, now it says that it's ready, so now I can hit send. I love on the simple, it always gives you this extra piece to make sure it's all good, and then you send. And then you can see it's gonna read those registration marks. Lucy says, hopefully the registration marks will, registration marks help it cut, right? Word that it wouldn't fix the page orientation. Seems like a printer issue maybe. You know, I'm gonna have to probably spend another half a day sorting all that out, but it'll be worth it to make it work correct how I want it. Okay, so it liked those registration marks, so it's gonna go ahead, and it seems to be cutting right where we want it to, so that's fantastic. We won't mess with that. Okay, so while that's all cutting out, we can come back here to design, and then we can turn off those registration marks, and then just get back to our normal, just so weird. Oh, right here, orientation. So for some reason, it won't even let me click. Okay, well, all of these things are cutting right now. Good thing I have that. We don't need the print border anymore because everything else we're just gonna cut out of colored cardstock. And, oh, that's all done. Let's take a gander. Looks like everything cut in a perfect spot. Oh, that one cut so well it popped it right out. Yep, I have good cut lines. I'm not worried. Let's see if I can pull these guys out of there. Some of them cut so well that they popped right on out. So we'll go ahead and unload. Yeah, these guys did. We'll turn that off. And then look at that. And I did not do a print bleed or anything, but it cut beautifully. Okay, let's see here. We've got the white parts of our large mushrooms. Okay. We've got our little tiny mushrooms and boy, my printer is, I'm trying to use up all of the ink and everything, so the colors don't look fantastic, and that is why. Some of these were even too small to cut. Yeah, that guy was too small, which is okay. And I kind of thought they might be, some of them. So let's see how this guy turned out. He might be too small too. Okay, well, I mean, we got a few. So when you look at it, we got a frog, and then we got 2 mushrooms that cut out pretty well, and then a mushroom top. So out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we only got, well, we got 2.5 out of 5, but our frog came out perfect, which is all that really matters. Okay, so we did that part, and now let's put a sheet of red on here. So I've got this big Recollections cardstock pack. There's like 200 sheets in here. And then the link to this pack, if you're interested, off of Amazon is on in the description box. So let's see, do I have a good red? I think I'm running out of red on this. Here we go. Here's a red. It's not, well, might not be the best red, but it's gonna work just fine. We'll get this lined up on here. Turn that back on. That looks good. We'll go ahead and load that in. And then let's go back here. And now we're going to, let's see, did we already, yep, we already ungrouped these. So, oops, we're just gonna put in our red guys here. And there was nothing else red we needed to cut. So we'll just cut those. We can go ahead and hit send. Again, we'll cut them simple. I'm gonna scoot these up. Did you know that you can move things around when you're on the sun panel? It's pretty nice. All right, everything else looks good here. We'll go ahead and send that. Everything's ready. We're gonna let that cut. While that's cutting, we'll come back over here. I kind of like to move things over as I cut them. And then let's cut out these pieces. We want these to be, let's see. If this is supposed to be kind of a shadow underneath, you have to decide, let's look back at our original image. Oop. There. It looks like they were a little bit darker underneath because they're in shadow. So you want the underneath to be darker and you want these to be lighter. So let's just keep that in mind. We want these to be a little bit lighter. And then when we look at, we've got it cutting over there. So let's look at the colors we have here. I've got like a dark brown. This is the color that I'm thinking for our entire card. We'll do, I Cannot think of the word for that. So then we could decide to do like a cream. We've got this dark brown. Don't really have a lot of, that's like a bluish. What does this look like? This is like a gray. That might be interesting. And then do like or we can do like a dark brown and a cream. What do you guys think? There's kind of some options. So what if we do like this gray color for underneath the mushroom, and then the gray, or do we like the cream? So this is kind of what, let's look again what we're looking at. So pull this back down here. The stalk here, this is kind of a creamy gray color. And then we can do the outline, which you're not going to see much of the outline. You're just going to see the kind of this back area here. And then when we look at the image, kind of this area here, you don't even actually really see it on this image. A little bit. You kind of see this outline here, and then it looks like really this should be darker. So what if we did the inside? Actually, I kind of like it with that. So let's do maybe this cream, and then we'll do the dark brown on this. So these we're going to do dark brown. What do you guys think about that? I feel like the color is off on your camera, so it's hard to tell. Yeah, that's very possible. It's very possible. So also the color that you see on the screen is different than the color of the cardstock. But I think what we're going to do is this dark brown here as the kind of under, like that little bit that you're going to see of the shapes we're going to cut now, and then we'll do the cream as the stalks and the underneath. So I think that's what we'll do for those. We can go ahead and unload the red. And the nice part is I know these settings cut well. This is the joy of the electrostatic mat. I'm going to turn off the electricity. Come on, pick it up. And then you just punch out all the little holes, which all of these holes cut really nice. I'm very surprised. You know, they're not terribly small. Some of them are. But you can punch out all these little holes. And then you just have to clean all this off. What I like to do is to just kind of gather all these. Sometimes you just kind of lick your finger a little bit to pick all these pieces off. I find that easier than me trying to peel my protective sheet off and then to try to get my protective sheet back on. And it takes a little bit of time when you take that protective sheet off to get it nice and flat again to really stick back on your mat. So I find leaving that protective sheet on all the time makes the amount of time it takes for something to use the electricity to hold it in place is quicker. Does that make sense? Oh, I got a little spot right there. Okay. So we're going to do the underside here. Do this brown. Turn that on. And see how it literally takes a second because I didn't pull that mat up. So it's stuck on there really well. Nothing's moving. Go ahead and load that in. And then we'll come back over here. I'll pull those. Actually, I'm going to use the bottom half. I don't use this half very often. So let's use the bottom. And then we can send that. We can do that simple, and then we can hit send. Looks great. Cut those out. And then while that's cutting, we can finish popping out all of these. Oh, this one did not cut all the way around that circle. So I'm just going to fold these areas back. I'll have to go back and look and see if maybe those cut lines did not go all the way around, but that's okay. Those will just fold back and they'll be fine. And then there's, looks like maybe one more spot right here. That doesn't want to pop out, which is fine. That's fine. Okay, that looks good. That one all came out. We'll get rid of these little pieces. All right, those cut well. We can look at those. Go ahead and unload. All right, we're building mushrooms here, and then the fun part with this. We'll do our light colors next. It's already stuck on there. So we can come back to design. Oop. We can move these off to the side, and then we're going to bring in these guys. I'm going to cut these towards the bottom end. Now, these might be too small. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Yeah, we cut that. That's going to get, okay. So I'm going to turn, oh, my speeds, we're going to turn that force down 25. I'm going to turn that speed down to 2. That's just going to help slow down a little bit to cut these. Are we loaded in already? Yes, we are. And then we can just hit send. Okay, so it's cutting that out. And then we're gonna pull out a nice green. And then where's our little guy? I don't know if I have a green that's gonna go well with him. These are maybe like a, can do like a light green. The other thing you could do is do all of these as a print and cut pieces, so that way you can get the same green to match what you're doing. You could absolutely do that. But I think that light green will do just fine. And then I don't need this. We can put this color back. It goes about right there. Oh, that did not, oh, pause, hold on. Yeah, thought it was ready, because you know what we didn't do is we did not turn on the electrostatic mat. Whoops. See guys, I make mistakes. I'm not perfect. I'm just gonna flip that around, turn that on. Goodness gracious. Amateur hour over here today. I tell you what, you get flustered on camera and then you just keep making more mistakes because you've already been flustered once. Okay, mat's on. That's not going anywhere. Let's try that again. Paper's moving, not holding on. Yep, thanks, Polly. Okay, so let's look back at our page now. So what happens when you go to, and you pause it like that, so now it says resume, and it says the cutting wasn't complete. I'm gonna do this little X right here. I don't want it to resume because I need to start over, but you see how you give it a second, and then now it's ready to start over. So now I can come back here to send. All of my same settings are on there. And then we can hit send. And now we have the electrostatic mat is turned on. That is key. And And this time the paper should not move. Woo, woo. Okay, so while all that's cutting out, because that's going to take a minute, let's start putting some of this together. We've got our little mushroom pieces here that we can start getting layered up. Oh, and that is just, we're going to have to work with that. It's kind of already destroying what's happening there. Okay, let's just see how all of this is going to fit together. So this will sit on here like this up here, and then you just got to make sure that you got all the pieces going the right direction so that they'll fit on there right. Okay, that works like that, and then this guy's gonna sit on top of there, and that's how that's gonna sit. Okay, I like to double check things to make sure before I layer them up and put the glue on the wrong side, because you want to know how many times I've done that. So just trying to be light-handed with the glue. We don't need a ton, but you need just enough to get it done. So if you're just joining us, we took our frog image that we had from last week's video using ChatGPT to help us create with our silhouette, and then we are turning that into a bit of a layered card design. We've done some print and cut. We're doing some of these large mushrooms as layered mushrooms. So doing all sorts of different skills on this card, which is really fun. And then we worked with the trace panel to see if we could get, that's how we got all these different shapes. And then I will link at the end, I'll have to go back and share another video I did kind of more in depth about the different ways you can use the trace panel. And I'll share that when we're done here, just in case you need a more in-depth. I have that too. Okay, so we'll get this one layered up here. Wow, I did not lay that down very well. Good thing this glue dries clear. Okay. All right, so there is most of our mushroom. And that didn't cut very nice, did it? You know, you can't see it yet. Let me show you. Yeah. Well, that did not work. I wondered if it wouldn't. So, this is my previous cut, so it's not like it ran into that. It just did a really crummy job. So, what are we gonna do with that? I think what we're gonna do is just take the stalks. And sometimes I find when you go to cut pieces like this and they're too close together when you go to cut them, that they're not going to cut well. So what we're going to do now, because I think that's part of it, is they're just too close. There's not enough space in between them for them to cut well, that they just get absolutely destroyed. And we don't necessarily need that. So things that we could have done different, we could do these mushrooms as print and cuts. Or what we could do is, we've got the stalks, so we could move those out of the way. And then what I would do is I would take these and I would spread them out even more. So you'd have to ungroup, and then you can just really spread these pieces out. And that's sometimes worth the trouble. So let's go to design. We'll zoom in here. We'll try that on one of them and see if it's worth it. So I'm just going to space these out, because sometimes when you cut chunks that are too close together, They just don't cut well. Have you experienced that? I have an American flag that I cut, and I found the same issue with that one, that you can't let all the pieces be too close together because then they just tear apart as you're cutting them. So let's see. Let's see if that saves us any trouble. And I'm just going to try it with this one. We'll group it together. And then that one we'll just pull off to the side. And now, put this down here. Just trying to look at my cardstock and see where things are not cut on it. Okay. Turn this off. Ooh, still wants to shock me. Takes a little bit for all that static to dissipate, and it doesn't feel good when you shock yourself. So I'm just gonna pull the tiny pieces off like that. Okay, so here's our little goof up. Here's our other spots. So I'm gonna cut down in this area. Turn that back on. We'll grab that cardstock. Oh, and you're not watching me. Sorry, guys. There we go. Okay. Here's our first goof up when the page moved. Here's our other spot. So we're going to cut down in this area. I used my cardstock and I just lifted it up and did it this way to get some of this debris off, because when I did it with my hand, even though this was off, I still got shocked, and that really does not feel good. Not at all. Okay, that looks good. We'll load this in. Oh, let's see if I can get that out of the way. Come here. Where's my little... Okay. All right. And then I'm just gonna hit send. We'll let that send. We'll see how that goes. While that one's working, let's check on our second little mushroom here. Okay, that's gonna go together just fine. And we can just layer this right on top of this brown piece. So what do you guys think? Do you think it's worth it for all the trouble that we're going through? Polly says she loves that I leave in all the mistakes. Many think that every cut is perfect with a die cut, and is not like that, and it helps when you give ideas for them. Yeah, totally. I've been doing this many years, and yeah, so, things don't always work right, and that's just facts of life. That, you know, no matter who you follow, you know, maybe not. Gosh dang, I did that. I tested it and I still did it backwards. It doesn't matter who you follow, but not everybody's going to show you their mistakes, because they need you to think you're an expert at what you do. Which, I mean, I still think I'm an expert at what I do, but I'm trying not to sugarcoat it, that even if I teach you all the things with silhouette, you know, we're all still going to make mistakes, and there's still other things that we're going to have to figure out. Okay, so here's this one, and I got glue on the back. And then this one here, I'm just going to put a couple little dots. Don't need a ton of glue. Okay, and then we'll layer this. So the difference between me doing this with the trace versus the cards that I design is that well, first of all, I design in Adobe Illustrator because that is a professional design program that anybody who does any type of graphic design, that is the #1 program to use. And I could take this picture in there and trace, and my traces will come out a lot more perfect. I can get my layers to fit a lot more perfect. It's just a little bit more precise. Now, I will say, of all of the different kind of, cutting machine softwares that I've seen, I've messed around with Cricut. I've looked at, what is it? The Scan and Cut has their own program. But Silhouette Studio is definitely the most design friendly that I've seen, where you can actually go in and create your own designs. But the difference between me doing this in Silhouette Studio versus doing this in Adobe Illustrator is that I would never take this card from Silhouette Studio and turn around and try to sell it to you, because it's not perfect. You can see on the back here that those did not line up perfect. Remember, we made those adjustments and it did not line up perfect. And if I was going to sell you this card, it was going to line up perfectly and everything was going to be flush on all the edges. And that's just not something I have found that I can do perfectly in Silhouette Studio. But that one is put together. Oh, look at this. This looks much better. This looks much better. Let's go ahead and unload that. Turn that off. Some of these still did not cut completely perfect, even though I slowed it down and, I kind of did all my tricks that I know how to do. Still did not cut perfect. Now the fun part is going to be trying to pull these out of here and then sort out how these are all going to line up around our card. That's going to be the fun part. And you'll notice, even as I'm pulling these, they did not fall right out. They're not perfect cuts. I should have used the overcut to make them a little bit more perfect so that the edges weren't ruffled and crinkled. When you're cutting intricate little pieces, that's definitely what you want to do. And not all of these are coming out. So I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it to try it with these, considering these didn't come out perfect and that we don't have all of them. And then we're going to have to take the time to set these in the right place. I don't know. Sometimes I don't love all of this tiny intricate little paper piecing, but I do it in my cards because I know that the people buying my card designs, they don't mind doing that you guys don't mind that. It's not always my favorite thing. So let's see what this looks like on this one here. Okay, these little square pieces go up top. The fun part is my little pick-me-up stick is so old that all it really does now is just leave me a bunch of residue, and it doesn't actually do anything that I want it to, so that's not really something we're going to use. But I can just kind of lay these around on here and see how this looks. Is it worth it for all this detail? That is a question that only you can answer. Does it look cool? Absolutely. Absolutely, this looks really cool. Okay, I don't know. I don't think it's worth it, you guys. What do you think? Let me know. Do we continue with trying to get these to line up, or do we move on and put the rest of the card together? Tell me what you think. While I'm waiting for you, we'll go ahead and cut out our green grass. All right, we're going to turn that electricity back on. I don't typically turn it on and off as I'm cutting things out, but I also tend to do all of my cutting and then come back and then do my all my assembling. But because we're doing this together on a screen, I don't want to waste your time and make you stare at me while I cut out some of these different pieces. So do things a little bit differently than how I really do them. That looks good. We can go ahead and hit send. It's loaded. Send. Okay, so we'll cut that grass out. And then the last thing that we have to cut out is the card base. And then we can do all of our gluing. So here's trying to kind of get those set up. All right, I'm not gonna mess with these. That's annoying to me. And then I can decide if I want I'm just gonna put this kind of in the middle. So all I'm gonna do to put these together, and let me zoom in here so you can see. I'm just gonna put a little bit of glue right here. And that is gonna be where this sits. So that's gonna sit right there in the middle. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. Okay, those are stuck on there well. This is done. Turn that off. So have you tried using ChatGPT with your crafting? Are you even, had you heard of ChatGPT and tried it out before last week's video? There's that. And then the last thing we need is our card base. For me, ChatGPT, I really started diving into it because all the business groups that I'm in, everybody's finding ways to basically make it your assistant in the different things that you're doing. And so that's how I got into using ChatGPT. And then I'm just finding there's, more ways to do it than just using it for business, that we can use it in all different aspects. So this one I'm going to do by line color. And we're only doing blue, which is going to be our score. And then I like to turn that blade depth down to 1. And then the no fill is the outline, and we're going to cut that. And there we go. So I do my score first and then my cut. You can click and drag those around so you can do order of operation how you want them. And then we can go ahead and hit send. And then you'll see here, it's going to do our score first. So it just went to 1. And then when it's done, it'll come back and do our cut. Oh, and then we need to do one more white sheet. I think I've used all the white out of here. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, but we can do cream. I think cream will look better anyways. Is there room on here still? No. Now, why the heck did you do that? It cut my score line. Son of a gun. Okay, there's our outline. Yep, cut my score line. All right, I tell you what, Silhouette Studio is all sorts of goofy right now. Wow. All right, let me get another sheet of that. Let's try this again and see if we can't sort out where that goofed up. Okay, let's see here. You know what? So when I unclick that blue line, it appears it still has our original blue line. So we're going to ungroup. We're going to get rid of that line. Ungroup. Our score line was still there. So now let's see if I can select just my score line. So what I'm going to do is scoot that over, grab that line. We're going to make that line blue, no fill. Grab both of these, center them. We can group it together so it doesn't move. I knew, I was like, that's so weird. I changed the color of our score line before, and that's what happened. Okay, so we got that. Now we have a blue score line and a cut line. I should have known. I was like, that is weird that that line is black. Should have known. Okay, take two. So it's going to do that, and then I'm going to do this for the inside of our card for us to write our message. And then we've got all the pieces. All right. Nobody said yes, let's do all of the intricate details on our mushrooms, so we're going to toss those. We've got these cute little, we've got two cute little mushrooms and this. So again, if you're just now joining us, we took an image from ChatGPT that had mushrooms and a frog and a cute little scene, and we took them into Silhouette Studio. We cut out our frog as a print and cut, and then we did our mushrooms as layered designs, and we are turning this into a card design from an image from ChatGPT. And that is what we are working on today. Okay, that worked. Beautiful. Okay. So here is our card base. We've got our score line here. We're just going to fold on that score line. And that is ready. Oop, let's not forget to cut our last little bit. Is going to be the box that we're going to do for the inside of our card for us to write our personal message. So let's come back to design one last time, get that out of the way. And then we did it white in here, but we're going to do this as beige. We can do it as a simple because we're just cutting. Cut settings look good. Send and send. Okay, this is the last of it. So while that's cutting out, we can see if we can get things set up here. So what I like to do is just kind of, again, lay things out how we want to do it. That fits perfectly down there. And then the cool thing is we can take our little frog and we can stick part of his feet kind of behind the grass. We can do part of him kind of in front of the grass. So it looks like, oh yeah, he's like in the grass. So you can do it like that if you want. I think that looks neat. Adds a little bit more depth. So to do that, what we're going to do is we'll glue down this green piece, but we won't put glue on our little grasses that we made. And this is done, and we'll just pull that off of there. So we're all ready to rock and roll. So let's put some glue. So we just won't add it to our little grassy spots that are sticking out, we're just going to put glue on that large rectangle. That way we can tuck our Mr. Frogman wherever we want him. So I'm just going to put this flush on the edges and then try to just get it flush on the bottom of the card. Sometimes it's easier to hold that up in your hand so you know where things are going. And then just give that a nice press. Give that a second to really get stuck down. So then we can decide if we want our frog to kind of hang out. We'll get him tucked in. And then before we glue him down, we need to kind of tuck our mushrooms where we want them. And some people like to have stuff kind of hanging off the edge, but we made this a 5x7 card. So I don't really have room for things to be falling off the edge, but I like the way that looks. So we'll move him, and now we can see where things are laying. So what I'm gonna do, this guy's pretty much up at the top and off to the side. So I know where this one's going. So we'll put some glue on the back of this. Gosh, I refilled this bottle, but I only filled it up halfway thinking that that would be enough, but apparently I should have filled the whole thing. Okay. So we know that we need this kind of up in this corner and flush with the side. We'll get this guy out of the way. Okay, this was overlapping ever so slightly, like that. So we can just put a little bit of glue on the back of this one and line that up, overlapping like that. And he was just kind of tucked in like that. Okay, now our frogman, I think we're gonna have to, because these are kind of stuck those ones down. These need a little bit of time. They're not quite stuck down. But because this side now is covered with that, but if you want some of that grass showing, what I might do then is try to pick up these little edges right here and just kind of push those forward a little bit. And then we can kind of tuck him in under that side a little bit. Maybe not so much. Well, even if he's just over all that, we have this little patch there, which is totally fine. We could do that. I think I'll glue him down, and then we'll glue our two little mushrooms down on top of that. And then, you know what? We're gonna do some foam on this guy, just because I like to add a little something of interest. So let's see what happens if we just put some foam to get him a little more dimension, especially if he's kind of standing in the grass. We'll do that. Okay, if you like what we're doing, make sure you give me a thumbs up or a heart right now, so I know that you like these kind of projects, and then we can start doing more of this kind of stuff where we're, you know, really creating our own things. Come on. Okay, and then I just like to test it and make sure, yep, the whole guy is standing up nice and tall on his own. That's great. You can peel the backing. And this, I mean, this really didn't take that long. Just depends how much time you want to spend playing with the design before you start getting it cut out. There's certainly a lot more we could have done, but not too shabby for a pretty relatively simple card. But, you know, and we used features from Print and Cut. We used that image. We made ourselves some layered designs. You know, we did a lot of kind of different little things, which is really fun. And then we've got our tiny little mushrooms here, which I think I'm only going to get glue. Not going to get a lot of glue. Let's see. Maybe we stick one of these kind of right there. And then we can stick the other guy. Well, they're hard to hold on to. Put the other one kind of down right there. So I think I like that. We'll just go ahead and put a little glue on this guy. Not a lot of glue on there. Not a lot of surface space to really add glue either. So when you don't have a lot of surface space to be adding glue, what you do is you take a little piece of scrap and then you put a little bit of glue on your scrap. And it helps when your glue flows easily. And then we've got this part is stuck down really well, but I can slide this under and that puts glue on the rest of him. So I can do that for this guy too. And that'll just put a little bit of glue just right under the part that you want to stick down. It's kind of like painting on the glue there. Okay, there's the front of our card. And then the last thing we're going to do is add in this piece here for us to write our personal message. You can glue this, you can use tape runner, whatever you want to use. I've got my liquid glue out, so that's what I'm going to use. Could do a print and cut message, however you want to do it. Get that in there. Okay, so what questions do you have for me about the process that we just went through, or other silhouette questions in general? Put those in the chat. We can go through some things if you would like. All right. Well, you can call this card officially complete. Okay. Check that out. How cute. We created this super cute card and we started from an image. Let me see if I can pull up the whole image. Okay, so here is the image that we started with. And then we turned it into this awesome card. How cool is that? So just a little recap. We took our image, we used the trace panel, and we turned our mushrooms into layered mushrooms. We designed the little grass piece from scratch. We used the new Project Wizard to create our card base. And then we used Print and Cut to create our frog on the front. Lots of little things that we did to come up with this super cute card design. And I think this is going to be a great card that I can just send to somebody as just a, hey, how are you, checking in, or a thank you card. I mean, it's cute and basic, but so, so adorable. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up so I know that this is the kind of stuff you want to see. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.